Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to the first meeting of the Martinez Refining Company Oversight Committee for the Risk Assessments. We are going to start by introducing ourselves, and I will go ahead and start first. My name is Nicole Heath. I am currently the acting director here at the Hazardous Materials Programs. I have been working for Hazardous Materials Programs since 2004. My experience is that I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering. I have spent 17 years of my career here in hazardous materials working for the California Accidental Release Prevention Group. This is the group that oversees process safety through the CalARP and Industrial Safety Ordinance regulations here at the county for refineries and large chemical companies. Then I spent a year as the supervisor of that group, and I have been in the acting director position for the last 3 months. And so now I'll turn it over to Adam Springer for introductions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Springer, Assistant Director of Contra Costa County Hazardous Materials Programs. I come from a background in biology. I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology, hired in Contra Costa in 2003 as a hazardous materials specialist. I did that work until I was promoted to assistant director about a year ago. And, my background also is in consulting. Prior to that, I was a consultant for environmental management companies, looking at all different types of backgrounds in schools, industrial sites, doing surveys for that type of environmental and health safety items within state and school districts. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. I'm sorry, you did cut out a little bit at the end there. Maybe if you can just get a little bit closer to the microphone next time. But I will pass it over now to Michael Dossi.
Yes, thanks. I'm Michael Dossi. I'm the acting supervising and accidental release prevention engineer in what we call the CalARP group. I've been with the county for going over 22 years, mechanical engineering by education. Prior to joining the county, I was a consultant for 12 years, primarily helping companies comply with the predecessor to the current program called the Risk Management Prevention Program, as well as other compliance issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'll turn it over now to Tricia Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tricia Johnson. I have been with the county Health Hazmat for almost 15 years. My background is actually in molecular and cell biology. I also have a master's degree in biodefense, and I'm currently getting my master's in public health. I've been the incident response team lead for about a year and a half, and I'm very excited to actually be participating in this committee. So thanks.
Thank you, Tricia. And then Sam.
Good afternoon, Sam Calvert. I'm one of the California Accidental Release Prevention Engineers. I've been with the county about 5 years, and my background is chemical engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. So just so that everyone has an idea of our roles here, I will be serving as the chair of the Oversight Committee. Michael Dossi will be the alternate chair in the instances that I'm not able to be here. And then Adam, Tricia, and Sam are additional Contra Costa Health Hazmat staff who are joining in. Now I'd like to introduce the additional members of the Oversight Committee. And so I will turn it over to Lauren.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Seguin. I'm Assistant City Manager for Martinez. I've been with Martinez for about 18 months now. And prior to coming to Martinez, I have years of experience in law enforcement and city management in various agencies, including BART, and also have an extensive experience in emergency management and government communications. So I look forward to participating.
Thank you, Lauren. And now we'll move over to the MRC representatives. We'll start first with Ken.
Hi, I'm Ken Axe. I'm the Process Safety and Assurance Manager at the Martinez Refinery. I've been here for a little over 20 years. My background is in chemical engineering. Prior to working for the refinery, I did work with Contra Costa County in the RMPP program and in emergency response.
Thank you, Ken. And now for the MRC labor representative, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Hi, everyone. Nick Prokowski here. I've been working at the plant for 10 years. I've worked in various union roles, but also as an operator out in the units, and also as a member of the industrial fire and rescue crew. and glad to be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nick. Before I move on to the rest of the members of the committee, I did want to give an update to those members of the public who are joining us today. In previous discussions of the Oversight Committee, we have laid out that it would be Contra Costa Health as the chair, one representative from City of Martinez, 5 community members, a representative from MRC, and a representative from MRC Labor. We have been working with the Air District on completing a plume model. The draft report is not completed at this time, but our initial look at the plume model has indicated that there has been potential impacts to Solano County, specifically Benicia. So we have also invited a representative from City of Benicia to participate on this oversight committee. And so I just wanted to make everyone aware of that and also let everyone know that when that report is available, it will be shared with everyone so that everyone is aware of the plume impacts from the November 24th event. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Fire Chief Chadwick to introduce himself. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Josh Chadwick. I'm the fire chief for the City of Benicia. I worked for the City of Benicia Fire Department for the last 24 years, with the last 5 as a fire chief. Prior to that, I did work in Contra Costa as a paramedic for a handful of years, and I have a master's degree in emergency response management. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And now we will introduce our 5 community members. And so I'll start with Tony Semenza.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Semenza. Currently the Executive Director of Contra Costa Care, Community Awareness Emergency Response Organization. I'm a 40-year resident of Martinez. Prior to working for CARE, I was the Chief of Emergency Services for Chevron Corporation for 23 years, both in New Jersey and out here. I'm a member of a number of organizations in Martinez, including the Civil Service Commission. So I'm glad to be here as a member, and my experience is after I retired 23 years ago from Chevron, I did consulting worldwide on emergency response training, reporting to emergencies, looking at procedures and protocols. So I'm just happy to be a member.
Thank you, Tony. Deirdre Castile.
Hi, I'm Deirdre Castillo. I'm a citizen committee member. I live in Pacheco. I'm a senior civil engineer for the city of Pleasant Hill. I have a lot of experience working with consultants and our emergency operations center in Pleasant Hill, and I've been an engineer for 27 years.
Thank you. Cheryl?
I'm sorry. Okay, hello. This is Cheryl Grover here, and I lived in Martinez all of my life. I'm retired for 5 years now after 20 years with the county assessor's office. I live in the unincorporated area of Martinez, which is Mountain View, right across the street from the refinery. And my dad retired from Shell Oil Refinery after 35 years. I have served on many city and county oriented committees and commissions for 40 years. And I'm the president of Mountain View Improvement Association.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Benjamin?
Hi, my name is Ben Terrio. I live in Martinez in the Virginia Hills neighborhood. I've been a police officer for about 15 years in the city of Richmond. I'm also our police union president. I sit on 3 nonprofit board of directors and the board of directors for PORAC, the Peace Officers Association Research of California. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And Pedro?
Hi, my name is Pedro Babiak. I am actually a smack up against the wall neighbor of the refinery. I also own a business downtown Martinez. I am a 2-time past president of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and a 2-time past president of the Contra Costa Taxpayers Association. And I currently sit on the BART Citizen Review Board, Police Citizen Review Board.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody. I look forward to working with you through this oversight committee. And so we will now continue through our agenda. We do not, as this is our first meeting, we have no minutes from the last meeting, so no items there. We also do not have any open issues to cover at this time. With that, we will move on to our new business. So before we review any documents today, I wanted to go over really what the committee's goals and priorities are for the risk assessment portion. Contra Costa Health has really envisioned this as a two-phase process. The first phase, we would like to immediately, or I shouldn't say immediately, we would like to work as quickly as possible to have a first phase done where we are able to do an assessment, including a soil evaluation of the impacted areas of the community from the November event. And also provide to the community any mitigative actions if necessary as a result of that assessment. And then we'd like to continue on with the second phased approach in which we will be taking a deeper look into the potential health impacts and environmental impacts that may have resulted from this incident. In order to do that, one of the committee's first priorities will need to be to select a consultant. The way that we will be structuring this process is that we have a request for proposal that we will be sent out to a list of consultants. Today, we will be reviewing that request for proposal. The Oversight Committee will be making any comments or edits to this request for proposal, and we will also review the list of consultants that we have who will be sent this request for proposal. With that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the request for proposal for this risk assessment, and I'm going to actually turn it over to Adam Springer to help us walk through that document. So just one moment, please. Okay, Adam.
All right. So the background is MRC. We're all about the release that occurred during November 24th and 25th of approximately 20 to 24 tons of catalyst. Here, basically, it's referred to in this document as spent catalyst.
Adam, I'm sorry, you are cutting out again on the audio.
Is that any better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. So we're going through the background of what occurred on 24th and 25th of November regarding the spent catalyst release. We did collect samples in the community during the after the event to determine if there was similar constituents tied to the actual event, and we did find that it was a similar makeup to the samples identified from the refinery itself. The Oversight Committee, as Nicole has already spoke about, is going to be made up of the chair, hazardous materials chair, and that is Nicole, City Council, representatives, 5 local community members, individual from Benicia, from Fire, MRC, and United States Steelworkers representing working with MRC. So overall, a risk assessment is, this is probably the first one that we've ever done to this extent in the county. We do other types of, risk for proposals like this, but a risk assessment itself, I think this will be one of the first ones that we have done. And it's not an easy task. I'll just tell you that. We have to really look at what we want to accomplish with this proposal that we're looking to develop to send out. We do have some, information that we have gathered during sample events after the release. But overall, we have to look at what we want to accomplish in the end with this risk assessment. I think
Thank you, Adam. So I'm moving it now to the discussion of what the scope of work. Yes.
Yeah.
So give me 1 second. And just so everyone knows that, we're talking about in this information is a little bit more on proposal information of what will be expected for the consultant to submit and in the work product in terms of the report contents, but really the scope of work gets into the finer details. So here, Adam, we have the objective and background, which I think you've already covered. And so I'll put it down here to the scope of work.
Yeah, A is our very important aspect of this RFP. We want this company or individual to have a two-phased approach, because we know that this is going to take some time. Risk assessments for environmental or health risk assessments are not fast. We're going to do our best to make sure that it is as fast as possible, but that's why we want to separate this into two components. One, we want a first phase approach to look at the environmental impacts. And I changed this a little bit from what was previously written to identify any immediate steps that are required to reduce these impacts. So whatever they decide that the environmental impacts were to the environment or the community, that if there are any steps we need to take immediately, that we can assess those and do that and make sure the public knows what to do. So I think that is the first core requirement that we want within that. And I think we need to also think about what questions the public are going to have because of this release and how it has affected them, their property, or their. The second phase will be a comprehensive analysis of the environmental impacts of the spent catalyst release and health impacts, and develop a report that includes an incident timeline, a map of the impacted area. That will be in association with help from Bay Area Quality Management District, because they're already working on the plume model of the release. And that's why we have invited outside the county representative. Magnitude of the exposure of human health and environment, and a summary of all the data to use to determine the impacts, mitigation, and the action plan, and proposed timeline of completion. So this scope of work, I think we need a little bit more detail and a little bit more core concepts that maybe the community members that are on this panel can have some input on. What are they looking for? We as the staff kind of know the general term of what you're looking to see, but I think we need some feedback from you to really hone down on those key aspects and to make sure, a risk assessor is going to look at everything, but we want to make sure that they cover key items that you want to see.
Great. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more, Adam, so you can go over the other portions of the scope of work.
Sure.
There you go.
The candidate will enter into a contract with Contra Costa County to perform this work. The Oversight Committee has developed that will oversee the process. We will review the request for proposals after receiving them, and look at and select a successful contractor or company to conduct the assessment. This will also include a virtual interview on the top candidates. I think we said we're going to select at least 2 top candidates and interview them virtually. On completion of the draft report, the successful candidate will provide the report to the Oversight Committee, along with a presentation, the RFP to report and the content. This presentation will be on the virtual meeting. The Oversight Committee will have the opportunity during the meeting to ask questions and give suggestions for the final report. We will of course review this complete report and relay any comments internally with this group to make sure the Oversight Committee knows that. And the CCH Housing Material staff will also relay any comments to the contractor to any changes that are needed. The draft reports and risk assessment will be modified to address our comments here, and resubmitted to the Oversight Committee. And here we have public comment period. when modified draft, the final reports of risk assessment are accepted by the Oversight Committee, there will be a 45-day public comment period that will take place.
Thank you, Adam. So before we move on to addressing any comments or edits proposed by the Oversight Committee, I did see that there was a question in the chat that I want to address. Someone was asking if the request for proposal is a publicly available document. Traditionally, this document has been reviewed by the Oversight Committee and has not been made public. With that being said, if this is something that can be shared, we will ensure that, you know, we post it along with all of the other information that we post for this Risk Assessment Oversight Committee meeting, and we'll have avenues for people to be able to access that. Okay, so I just wanted to address that very quickly. Thank you. So now I'm going to open this up to members of the Oversight Committee to see if there are any comments or proposals to edit any of the language that we have currently drafted.
I'd like to, if you go all the way up, there was a mention, and I also mentioned in chat about the phases of risk assessment. Based on the National Research Council, it has been changed to three phases. And phase one will probably be what we are right now, which is problem formulation and scoping of the problem. So essentially figuring out what kind of questions are we wanting to ask, or we want to ask and get answered by the risk assessment. And phase two is the planning and conducting the risk assessment. And the three is the risk management, which is the mitigation and action plan. So I know earlier on, it was mentioned too, that part of the first phase is soil sampling or soil evaluation. I'm not sure necessarily that a risk assessor would be in part of that. It could may mean if that's what needs to be done in order to figure out what the real problem is, then that might be a separate contractor.
Thank you for those comments, Tricia. So what I will say on that, and I hear what you're saying about the three different phases for a risk assessment, is maybe proposing to change the language. I think what we're really trying to convey here is that we would like two studies, a very initial, study, or an initial study that is done that includes a soil evaluation so that we can provide the community answers on if there are any mitigative steps or actions that need to be taken by them, and working with the community to get that accomplished. And then I think the second part that we're looking at is probably the more traditional risk assessment, including the three phases that you just discussed. So I'm going to propose then that I change the language on this so that I can correctly reflect what it is that we are trying to say. I also do believe that all of the companies that we have been in contact with to see if they would like to have a request for proposal sent to them did indicate that they would be able to handle both of our requests. So what I'm proposing then is that I change this wording to say that the successful candidate will conduct an initial evaluation, including a soil evaluation, and perform a risk assessment. And then Tricia, to capture what you said, I apologize, I wrote this down as an acronym. I want to say in accordance with the NRC guidelines, but I'd like to put what NRC stands for.
National Research Council.
So was that Resource Council?
National Research Council.
Research. Okay, sorry, I'm typing and trying to process information at the same time.
And I like the evaluation language, soil evaluation, because it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do soil sampling. Would we like that? Yes. But that is their, the analysis for the individual or the company is going to make those decisions to say, this is required or this is not required. So it gives them the opportunity to do what's needed in the study to complete the task.
Thank you. Yes, Adam, we will definitely be relying on the expertise of the consultant that we select. So going with that thought, I'm also going to be proposing a change to the language here. Instead of saying the first phase, I will say the initial evaluation. Will provide a quick analysis of the environmental impacts and identify any immediate steps required to reduce these impacts. And then we will say the risk assessment instead of the second phase. And I do want to acknowledge that I did see that there are hands raised, but we are only going to be accepting public comment at the end. So the Oversight Committee will be conducting their work first, and then at the end, we will have an ability for everyone to speak for 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Tricia. Do you feel that this has addressed your comments?
Actually, I wanted to, let's see.
I can make this a little bigger as well, sorry.
There's 2 initial evaluations, including a soil evaluation, and then the evaluation will provide a quick analysis. Is that, are we referring to the initial evaluation?
So when this second sentence is meant to actually discuss and further what we meant by when we said the initial evaluation. It's because we used to say first phase and second phase. If we feel that this is too redundant, I can take out the including a soil evaluation and put that in the second sentence.
No, that's fine. It's just that maybe to say at the end, this evaluation will provide a quick analysis, just so it's referring to the initial evaluation in the previous sentence.
Got it. Understood.
And then I see a comment here about whether this initial evaluation would include other impacts besides, but not limited to air, land, and water environmental impacts.
Yeah, so I see that, and that is coming from the public, and so we are holding all public comment to the end. Thank you. Okay, so then from Oversight Committee members, do I have any additional comments or feedback on the edits that have just been made to this section?
I was just going to add, Nicole, that I think actually, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry. I was just going to say, we include potential impacts as well, since it's been kind of a period of time since it happened. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, and that is how we have been speaking about it, any potential impacts. Okay, Lauren?
I was just going to add that the city of Martinez would definitely support this change and approach in terms of having an initial evaluation regarding the soil assessment. So I just want to throw in that we highly support that.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, any additional comments from Oversight Committee members?
Nicole?
Yes, Tony.
Are we're going to do the soil evaluation? Is that going to be in the plume area? Huh? Is that, or I mean?
Yes, so one of the things, so let me scroll up just a bit, and thank you, Tony, because I actually was going to come back to this section so that we could review this. I wanted the Oversight Committee to take a look over here at what we have stated should be done for the risk assessment. So in the work product, we said that this should include, after scope and approach, I've included facts, including a timeline of events and the area impacted. So yes, we would need to know the area that is impacted. As I mentioned earlier, we have been working with the Air District to obtain a plume model, and I believe that we are very close to obtaining the report on that so that we are able to provide that information. And we'd also like that to be included in the consultant's report out as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Now that we are back up here in the report format, I did want to open this up and see if there were any comments from the Oversight Committee in terms of the draft report format.
That was a good, did you see Michael Kent's comment?
I did, yes, and
That's a good
again,
catch.
I'm going to hold all comments to the end, but I will just clarify though on what I said here. Yes, we are working with the Air District on a plume model, which will give us an idea of the area that is impacted, and that will be what we will be able to use as our guide. That does not mean that those will be the only set bounds that we use, but it will be a guideline for us to start with the areas that we believe are impacted, but the consultant will be able to make their own determination as well of the impacted areas and how they want to do any soil evaluations or any further evaluations. We will be relying on their expertise for that. Lauren?
Yeah, and this might be buried somewhere within the report, but does part of this scope eventually, as they kind of unwrap everything, does it include something about notification and or communication or something related to you know, what the failure was or how that can be improved? Is that part of this, or am I off on that?
So looking at, if I understood your question correctly, looking at the failure that resulted in the release of the spent catalyst, all of that is intended to be captured in the independent incident investigation. This section is really looking at the impacts that the community felt or potential impacts that the community may have seen as a result of this release and what actions may need to be taken by the community, if any are determined by the consultant.
Okay, thank you. Understood.
Mhm. Okay, do we have any additional comments? I will scroll down a little bit on here. We were taking a look at the draft report contents. So just so that everyone can see the remainder of that section. Go ahead, Tricia.
So looking at the determination of the acute health effects and the determination of environmental impacts, I would caution the use of determination, because a risk assessment is really assessing the risk of a probability of something that may happen in the future. And so I don't know how else to put it, but it's too finite, and that's not something what a risk assessment would be able to figure out. Just only a potential or probability of something could happen because of this exposure.
So I was going to ask, if I put the word potential, and I think this ties, very well into Nick's comment from beforehand. If I put potential in front of acute health effects and potential in front of environmental impacts, will that serve to
Sure, yeah,
address that? Okay. And then Lauren, did you have another comment, or is that still from the previous? Okay, thank you. Nick?
Are we limiting health effects by using the word acute? Would we just leave it as health effects and then see what they come up with?
Yeah, no, that is a good catch. Thank you very much. Okay. Do I have any other comments from the committee? Before I move on then, I also want to double check then, is if anyone has any on the oversight committee has objections to these changes, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I will move on to another section for us to review and assume that these changes are okay with the committee. Okay, I am not seeing any raised hands. Thank you. So, here we talk about agency management. I think that is fairly straightforward. I just wanted to check back in here on the scope of work and make sure that everything has been reviewed. So the background, we've already gone over that, the requirements and scope of work. So now that we have kind of changed a little bit that, first portion on the scope of, or the successful candidate and talked about an initial evaluation and then a risk assessment, I wanted to make sure that now what we have said for the rest of the process still aligns with that. So I'm going to give the Oversight Committee a couple of minutes to review this and see if there's any comments now based off of those previous changes. Okay, I'll give one more minute for everyone to finish reading. Okay. I will open it up now and see, are there any comments or suggested edits now from the committee? I'm not seeing any hands raised. I do want to put forward a consideration for an edit. On item number 4 here, we talk about a draft report and we say the draft of the final reports of the risk assessment. And I do just want to modify that to talk about reports of the initial evaluation and risk assessment as we're specifically calling it out. Does anyone have any concerns with that edit? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised or hearing anything from the Oversight Committee. I'm now going to scroll down to the last portions of this process of the Oversight Committee. And so I will give the committee 2 minutes to review sections E and F. Okay, we're coming up to the end of the 2 minutes. And so I see Josh has his hand raised. So go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I'm just curious on the, hold on, my video on F. It says that they'll give a meeting to the Contra Costa Board of Supervisors in the city of Martinez. Are there any other potential cities that were impacted that should get that same treatment? I mean, if they find that it did impact Benicia, would they not send that or give a report to Benicia City Council as well? maybe we could say something like, or and any other city that had, that had impacts or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think that's a good edit that we can include. I know that we have been, contemplating that as we've learned more about the initial plume modeling results. So to capture your thought correctly, we have separately to Martinez City Council and any other potentially impacted city. Does that capture the thought?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nick?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I know in 4, we have the final reports of the initial evaluation and risk assessment. So it's a little fuzzy. Is there going to be the initial evaluation and then some feedback and forth with the whole 45-day public comment and sharing it in the meetings, or is that strictly for after the actual risk assessment is done?
Yeah, so I think, both of those would have to follow through our process that we have set forth. The whole goal of this is to provide a level of transparency for the public. And so I think both would have to occur. They would not occur at the same timeline, but I do think that, yes, the initial evaluation would probably have to be accepted by the Oversight Committee and have a public comment period take place. I want to see, though, do other members of the Oversight Committee see that the same way? I know one of the drivers behind having this initial evaluation is recognizing the need for our community to be able to have answers quickly. Just keeping that in mind, I want to open that up and see what members of the Oversight Committee think on that inclusion. Oh, go ahead, Nick, or was that from the initial comment?
Sorry, that was still up. Yep, thanks.
No worries. Michael, go ahead.
So in what you just modified in item F, the following sentence still lists 2 meetings. And the first sentence talks about, maybe it doesn't talk about both, but so you might need to, strike that.
Understood. Okay. So I think, the committee really needs to make a decision right now. So as I'm looking through this, I am actually seeing a lot of conflict from when we go over here at item number 4 all the way through F, because everything else really only is talking about final reports of the risk assessment. It was set up that way because initially we talked about the 2 phases. So I think if we believe that that initial evaluation should still go through that same process, we're going to need to make those edits. But first, I guess I would like to say is I do want confirmation that that is where what the committee would intend to do, is to have that initial evaluation go through the same process. So we'll do this the same way we did the other confirmation. If anyone has an objection to putting the initial evaluation through that same process, including 45-day public comment period on the Oversight Committee, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I will go ahead and make those edits through E through F. Ken? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so more of a comment than so given the desire to expedite this, is 45 days appropriate for the review period, or would we want to expedite that as well?
Okay, I'm gonna let Deirdre also comment, and then we'll circle back to your comment, Ken. Go ahead, Deirdre.
Yeah, I agree that, if we had 2 different 45 days, it just drags everything out. And I don't think that that's what the community really wants. It just seems overkill to me.
Okay. So I am hearing 2 comments from the Oversight Committee members that seem to be not in favor of going through that 45-day public comment period. I just want to make sure. Okay, Tony?
Yeah, I'm in agreement, total agreement. We're already into 11 weeks since the incident. We want to get this out as soon as possible with accurate information.
Great. I think it actually might just be easier if I talk to or get the votes from the individual official oversight committee members. So I currently have 3 votes for not including that. Lauren?
Yes, I would vote to not include that.
Okay. Ben?
I would also vote not to include.
Okay. Cheryl?
I'm also voting not to include it.
Okay. Josh?
I guess I'm slightly confused. Are you saying not have a public comment period or not have it be 45 days?
I think people are saying not to have a public comment period for this initial evaluation. So we would just keep the risk assessment portion in this language.
But then there would be a public comment period after this phase?
So for the initial evaluation, there would be no public comment period. We would get the initial evaluation completed, get the recommendations if there were any, and then take action through the oversight committee based on that. But for the risk assessment portion, there would be the 45-day comment period and the final report outs to the Board of Supervisors and any potentially impacted cities, including Martinez.
I agree then, as long as there is the second, if there is the public comment period in the second phase there, or whatever we're calling the second part, then I agree with that.
Okay, so there are 10 official members of the Oversight Committee, and I already am at 7 votes to not include that. So I am going to go ahead and just take this portion out that I have placed in item number 4, and we will make no changes on this. But I also would like it reflected in the meeting minutes that the Oversight Committee will need to, at the next meeting, determine what the process is going to look like for that initial evaluation. And also now I am going to need to edit for final reports to just final report. Okay. And now I will do a last call for any other comments or proposed edits to the request for proposal before we move to the next agenda item.
Nicole, if I wanted to bring up, and I know this is something that's come up and I don't know if this is going to be covered in the other agenda items, but can you speak to the committee and the public about, as we go through this process, what our commitment to communicate to the public is about these various benchmarks? How, granted, we know there's going to be public meetings, but just a little bit about how the health department will get that word out about those meetings. That would be helpful.
Okay, I will do that. But first I'd like to see what Deirdre's comment is, and then I will address yours, Lauren.
I don't have another comment. I think that was just left over from last time. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. No, just checking. Okay, so just to give everyone some more insight to this process, and I appreciate the question from Lauren. There are different avenues in which this information is going to be conveyed for this oversight committee risk assessment portion. So as you guys are all aware, we are having these meetings open to the public. They are being recorded, and those recordings will be posted on our website. I think Lauren can confirm for us. We've been working very collaboratively with the city of Martinez. So I think we will be able to share with them to post on their channels as well. And in terms of additional updates from these oversight committee meetings, you will not need to wait until we have those draft final reports and have that 45-day public comment period and meetings. We will be giving periodic updates through the Industrial Safety Ordinance Community Warning System ad hoc committee meetings. Even though they're called ad hoc committee meetings, I think right now we are seeing the need to have these more frequently, almost at a monthly basis. So we will be providing an update and getting any additional direction from the supervisors for this oversight committee at those meetings. Those meetings are also open to the public. There is a meeting scheduled for February 21st. that will update everybody on the meetings that have occurred today. Thank you. Okay. If you give me 1 second, I need to bring back a couple of people in as panelists, and then we can continue on. Okay, sorry. So we have Sam Calvert joining us again, and then I believe Kim McCarl has also been promoted to panelist. So Kim, I will turn it over to you. I believe
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Kim McCarl. I'm the communications officer for Contra Costa Health Services. So I just wanted to jump in quickly about that question around communications. One of the things that we've been discussing behind the scenes is coming to this committee specifically with an agenda item to talk about how best to keep our community informed. One of that is, part of that question is how best to make sure you all have the information you need to be conduits to our community, and then what tools we can take advantage of within our own toolbox, but also within the broader community to make sure that we are adequately, appropriately, and fully transparently communicating with our community. So that was a lot of words to say that this will be an item that we discuss with you all at a future meeting in terms of how best to do this, the communication around it. So thank you, Nicole, for that.
Thank you very much, Kim. Okay. If there are no additional comments or edits proposed for this request for proposal from the Oversight Committee, I am going to go ahead now and start a new screen share so that we can review the list of consultants and then also review the qualifications of the consultants. So in preparing for this risk assessment portion of the Oversight Committee, Contra Costa Hazmat has reached out to the Office of Environmental Health and Hazard Assessment and Department of Toxic Substances Control to be able to gather a list of consultants together who have expertise in performing risk assessments. From this coordination, I am able to bring to you guys 4 companies that we will be sending the request for proposal to. The first company is Exponent, and our referral name is Mr. Brent Krager. Then we have Blankenship and Associates with Mr. Mike Blankenship, Talk Strategies and Ann Verwill, and then NES. And my contacts there have been Julie and Diana, but I know that the request for proposal will be going out to NES globally. They have assured me that they have the expertise to be able to handle this. So I would also now like to share, and we can go over each one of these referrals individually. So if you give me 1 moment, please. I'd like to review the qualifications of Dr. Brent Krager. Can someone please confirm for me that the screen has pulled up appropriately?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. So as you can see, Dr. Brent Krager is coming from Exponent. He is a principal scientist there. He has over 37 years of experience conducting and managing laboratory field and clinical studies of exposure, toxicology, epidemiology, and disease causation analysis. He also has 28 years of environmental chemistry and toxicology expert witness experience, as well as experience in doing exposure assessments and looking at adverse human health effects. So this is our first company of Exponent. The next one here I would like to share is Blankenship and Associates. We have a brief summary here about the firm being founded in 2000 by Michael Blankenship, who is the president of Blankenship and Associates. He has an MS in agricultural and environmental chemistry from UC Davis in departments of environmental toxicology and environmental engineering, a BA in chemistry from St. Michael's College. He is also a California registered professional engineer. And you can see the different staff training and expertise in human and ecological risk assessments, as well as other environmental toxicology, environmental engineering, and some of the different associations that they are associated with, including the Society of Environmental Toxicology and Chemistry. And the last one that I had to share with the group, sorry. Is Anne Verwill from Talks Strategies. So Anne Verwill has 20 years of experience in environmental consulting in the areas of human health risk assessment, site assessment, and environmental regulation. It says that she's managed and conducted numerous human health risk assessments that addressed a wide variety of chemicals in soil, soil vapor, air, and groundwater. There's also a list of sites for which she's performed risk assessments, including petroleum, aerospace, electronics, mining, and MGP sites. And so, just to kind of give an overview of what our process is, now that we have gone through and made our edits to our request for proposal, the request for proposal will go out to all of these companies. We will be asking the companies to submit their proposals within a 3-week time period. From there, the Oversight Committee will review the proposals and narrow down to 2 companies to interview. And from there, we will be selecting the company to perform the work for us here. And all of the, the process of how that is done is outlined in the scope of work and the request for proposal. So do I have any questions or comments from the Oversight Committee members? Tricia.
Is it possible to get maybe a sample of the work products in the risk assessment work products, previous incidents that they've or previous events that they had to do an evaluation?
Yeah, let me really quickly go back to this request for proposal and see if we have included that in the information that needs to be submitted to us. Give me 1 second. Sorry, let me start the new screen share to bring that back up. Okay, is everyone looking at the request for proposal right now?
Yep.
So under the proposal information, Tricia, this is what we have listed. And if we can talk about and vote through the Oversight Committee about the addition of your proposed language. So I think if I capture your thought correctly, you would like us to say something like including an example.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Risk assessments performed, of prior risk assessments performed.
Yes.
Okay, so then I will use the same process as beforehand, and I will just quickly go through the Oversight Committee members to see if that change is acceptable. So Tricia, I know you're a yes. Cheryl, is that change acceptable to you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Deirdre?
Yeah, I think that that's fine.
Okay, Ken?
I'm good with that.
Nick?
I'm good with that. Thank you.
Okay, Lauren?
Yes.
Okay, Ben?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Pedro?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So that is unanimous, and so we will include that change. Thank you, Tricia, for that comment. Okay. We have now come to the end of our agenda. So now this is the portion where we will be allowing 1 minute for public comments. I have allotted 15 minutes for public comments. So if there is anyone who wishes to make a comment at this meeting, please raise your hand and then we will promote you to panelist for your 1 minute. Okay, Kayla, if you can promote the first speaker, please.
Michael Kent, you have been unmuted. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, Michael Kent. I'm the Ombudsman for the county's hazardous materials program. And some of you who've been around a long time will remember that we did do a risk assessment of the Sierra Creek contamination in East Contra Costa about 20 years ago. And one of the key things in terms of the consultant report, which was about a foot thick, was their ability to communicate the results to the public, because risk assessments are not easy things to intuitively understand. And so as you're developing criteria for evaluating which client you're going to hire, which consultant you're going to
20
hire,
seconds.
I really think you should include some questions or ask a demonstration of their ability to communicate the results to the public, because that's going to be very key. Just to clarify my comment before about the air modeling, I think you should make it clear to the
Time is up.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. I have heard your comment and noted your comment. I also did want to point out that in our request for proposal, we did also ask for a glossary, recognizing that the document will be in the public domain with non-technical people reading it, but we also will be looking for these reports to be developed in a way that is communicable to the public. Thank you. Okay. Kayla, if we can promote the next speaker, please.
It looks like AG as the initials. Go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. I would just like to ask the committee to reconsider getting rid of the public comment period for that initial evaluation. There's going to be some really important information for the community that's going to be released at that time. And I know you don't want to do 45 days, but even like a week, something to allow for public comment is really important. Otherwise, we're going to be waiting until who knows how long this process is going to be to the very end. So I plead that you reconsider that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comments. I just want to see if we have any additional speakers. I don't see any additional hands raised. Oh, actually, now I see another hand raised. So I have noted the comment from the last speaker, and I will circle back to that before we end the meeting. But Kayla, if you could please promote the next speaker.
Heidi Taylor, go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. I second what the last speaker just said. I think that we can reduce the public comment period so that everyone has an opportunity to make sure their concerns are addressed in this initial evaluation. I also would like to yield the rest of my time back to Michael Kent so he can finish what he was saying.
Thank you. So Kayla, if we can bring Michael Kent back online.
Yes, go ahead, Michael.
I put my last comment in the chat, which was when we did that previous risk assessment, we asked both OEHA and the Environmental Health Investigation Branch at CDPH to take a look at it. They both gave us very valuable feedback, and I think you should consider that.
Great, thank you, Michael. Adam, I don't know if you want to speak to the conversations we've already had with EHIB.
Yeah, only that they have been involved, and we definitely will keep them involved in the process.
Yes, and I also have, had conversations with members from OEHA and also DTSC and have received their full support, and they are aware of what we are doing, and we have asked them, to be able to support us as necessary, even if up to potentially including reviewing this draft report. So thank you. Do we have any additional members who would like to speak? I'm not seeing any new hands raised from the committee. And again, we are giving each committee member 1 minute for public comment. So I don't know if the hands that are currently raised are just from the initial, but I do see that Cheryl has her hand raised, so I'll turn it over to Cheryl now.
Oh, hi. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I do support what Heidi and AG have been talking about. It would be good for us to provide more public input, not less. I think this was a really big tragedy that happened to a lot of people. So it's good for our transparency. It's good for coming to a good outcome.
Thank you, Cheryl. Lauren?
Yes, I too appreciate their comments, and my thought process on this when we were talking about it was that we would get that initial evaluation and then we would have a meeting right ahead of us scheduled so that we could hear a professional report about that initial evaluation and invite the public to attend. So that was my thinking, and but I'm completely open if we also need to designate maybe just a shorter wait period. But I do think that that was probably what you were intending to do, Nicole. Regardless, is having an oversight committee meeting where the public can attend and hear the results of that initial evaluation.
Yeah, no, thank you, Lauren. So yes, I think, we're on the same page in terms of what we were thinking and envisioning what that would look like. I think, we are really prioritizing this initial evaluation. And when the results came in from that, it would be shared in the Oversight Committee, which is a public meeting here. We do allow for public comments. And then we would immediately want to start, if there are any mitigative actions that were recommended, working on how to get that accomplished and working with the community on that. Now, if the Oversight Committee thinks that we need to somehow memorialize that language within our request for proposal, I think we most certainly can do that so that we have something that's kind of guiding us along the way. But to address the comment from AG, yes, we would not make the community wait. The whole purpose of getting this initial evaluation done is so that we can quickly take action. Ben?
Yeah, that was just my it's kind of to Lauren's point. I mean, there's nothing that's set in stone that says we can't have additional public input, right? It's a comment and a question.
Yeah, no, that is correct. There is nothing that says that we can't have additional input. I think we just need to make that very clear then in this request for proposal. So I do see that we had one other person raise their hand to speak. We also have Michael Dossie with his hand raised. So I will let Michael Dossie comment first, then we'll go back to the public comment period, and then we will work on addressing this comment. So Michael?
So one thing I just want to point out on the request for proposal and the scope of work, the primary benefit of writing all that stuff down is so the consultant or the contractor knows what to expect that they need to be involved with. That doesn't preclude that the county or the cities can do their own public meetings and have additional, public outreach after we get some results. But it's really trying to put the consultant on notice that, hey, you're going to need to be prepared to be at this meeting. If we so desire, they need to be there. I just wanted to comment that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Understood. That's a good point. But I do think that if we would like to have them speak to the Oversight Committee on that initial evaluation, we probably should include that to address your point. Okay, I'm sorry. Before we go to, I see it's Charles Davidson who has his hand raised. I will go to Nick and then, sorry, Charles. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on still having a meeting and still having the public be able to comment at that meeting. And then I believe you mentioned having materials like that posted a week before the meeting on the website so that people could review it so they wouldn't be caught blind. I just want to double check if that's still applicable to this, but something like that.
Yes, that most certainly is the process that is used for the Industrial Safety Ordinance Community Warning System ad hoc meetings. And it is also the goal that we are aiming for with these meetings to get information published a week ahead of time. Thank you, Nick. Okay, Kayla, if you could please promote Mr. Charles Davidson.
Go ahead, Charles, when you're ready.
Hello, I have a very brief comment, which is really a question. My name is Charles Davidson. I'm from Hercules, and my question is related to this. I'm not sure if this item would be included in a risk assessment, but in this case, my question would be, does a risk assessment include a survey in which the kind of what kind of particulate matter monitors existed at the MRC refinery and were functioning with or near the FCC's particulate matter emissions points. And that's all my question is.
Thank you. I don't know that I have an answer for you at this time, but I have taken the comment down and I will ensure that we speak on this and provide some sort of answer on this. I don't know if Tricia or Adam had anything to add on that and with your experience of risk assessments.
I mean, the idea of particulate matter and sensors, there are some in the area. A lot of them are privately owned. I'm sure if it is good information that the assessor feels that it's important, they would have full access to that information if they request it. If you know, I think there's a couple of different types of sites that provide that information, and then if they want that information from the refinery itself, then they can, and we will make sure it's provided.
Yeah, a lot of that data, well, this would probably be important data for an exposure assessment, which is part of the risk assessment process. So any available data, any talks data, any historical data will be part of the calculation of the assessment.
Thank you, Tricia. Okay, and then I just want to double check here, Nick, if you had an additional comment or if that was from your initial comment a minute ago.
No, I don't. Sorry. Is my hand? I'll put my hand down. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just double checking. Okay, so in order to address the comment that we had heard, and it sounds like the Oversight Committee is in support of maybe modifying the request for proposal to include the identification that the initial evaluation will require the consultant to present at the Oversight Committee meeting. I'm going to bring back the request for proposal and add some additional language into that the committee can review and vote on. So just one moment, please. So I'm going to go scroll back down to the scope of work if everyone can just bear with me. So over here in item number 2, we have upon completion of the draft report, the successful candidate will provide the report to the Oversight Committee along with the presentation, see RFP for report content. I think we can leverage this existing language and say upon completion of the draft report for the initial and the risk assessment, the successful candidate will provide the report to the Oversight Committee along with the presentation. You can see the request for proposal for report content. It's anticipated that this presentation will be one virtual meeting for each report. The Oversight Committee will have the opportunity during this meeting to ask questions and give suggestions on the draft report. And as Michael pointed out, this does not preclude the Oversight Committee or the county from having any other additional meetings related to the results of the initial evaluation. But I do believe this is capturing the spirit of the comments. And so I'm going to quickly just go through the list of members from the Oversight Committee to ensure that we are okay with this language. And so I'm going to start with Josh.
No, that sounds good for me.
Okay. Pedro?
Agreed.
Ken?
Are we set on virtual?
That is a good question. I know a lot of meetings are still held virtually. We did say it is anticipated, so that does not mean it is tied to virtual.
I'm okay with it as written.
Okay, thank you. Deirdre?
Yeah, I'm in favor of that change.
Okay. Michael?
I'm in favor of the change, but to add to Ken's comment, one of the things we could do is have them cost out making visits for the also meetings too as an additional cost. So when they send their proposal, if we decide in the future that we wanted to have an in-person meeting, they would at least already have some kind of a cost basis for that.
If you're talking about to specifically state that, I think we can. I do know that the request for proposal does already include a section that talks about travel expenses, and we can just make that clear for them to scope out for us. Thank you. Cheryl?
Yes, thank you.
Lauren?
Yes.
Did I capture all of the Oversight Committee members? Nick, I'm sorry.
I'm a yes, thank you.
Okay, and is Tony still with us, or did Tony drop off? Okay, I don't think Tony's here anymore.
I'm here too, and
Oh,
I'm a yes. Oh,
Okay, thank you, Ben. Sorry.
no problem.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is 9 out of the 10 committee members. And then I propose the language. So I'm also in agreement with that. So that will be the new language that we have that will also cover the concerns that were brought to the committee about having a meeting with a public forum based on the results of that initial evaluation. Great. If there are no further comments from the committee on this request for proposal, again, I just will quickly go over what the next steps will be. I will accept all of the red lines that have been proposed and agreed upon today. The request for proposals will be sent out to all of the consultants that have been identified and shared within this meeting tomorrow. We will give them 3 weeks to send the proposals to us. And then once the proposals are received, we will set up our next meeting to review the proposals and identify whom we will interview for selection. And I will be in contact with the Oversight Committee members on that via email. Great. If there's no further questions or comments, I think we'll be able to adjourn this meeting at 4:20 p.m. I want to thank everybody for their attendance today, and I look forward to seeing you at future meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.